Array, Marshall, play, 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 yes, play, 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 yes, play, play.
It's a very special occasion. It's commemoration of Thomas Ashe, who died tomorrow, 100 years ago, after being force-fed in Mountjoy prison. And on Thursday, I was in Kerry with Gerry Kelly, where the local Thomas Ashe Centenary Memorial Committee produced a brilliant book, and I commend it to you all. It's called Ireland's Hunger for Justice, and it's about all of the 22 Republican political prisoners in this century, in the last century, who died on hunger strike in prisons north and south and in England. And it's a hugely significant publication, and I commend the Republicans from Kerry for putting it together. And we're going to unveil here in the Mart a memorial to all of these hunger strikers, and I want to commend everyone who was involved in planning. We know these events don't happen on their own, and putting together and mobilising and then organising. And it's very important. We have a decade of commemorations. It's very important that we tell our own story, and that sits alongside all the other narratives. Hunger striking is a very ancient part of Irish culture. In pre-Christian Ireland, when people were powerless, when they were voiceless, they would fast to draw attention to an injustice or to a wrong that was done to them, and to exert moral pressure on the powerful. The aim was to embarrass or to shame the wrongdoer into doing the right thing. And Yeats wrote a play, The King's Threshold, and in part of that it says, "The king laments the aggrieved bard's chosen course of action. He has chosen death, refusing to eat or drink, that he may bring disgrace upon me. For there's a custom, an old and foolish custom, that if a man be wronged or think that he is wronged, and starve upon another's threshold till he die, the common people for all time to come will raise a heavy cry against that threshold, even though it be the king's." And that's very, very true. Everyone knows, and everyone throughout the freedom-loving world knows the names of our hunger strikers. Who remembers Margaret Thatcher? The powerful have never really come to terms with the resolve of common people to resist injustice. And throughout the history of Ireland's struggle for freedom, the British have pursued a strategy of criminalisation aimed at legitimising the right of the Irish people to fight for independence. And the hunger strike was, I suppose, resorted to as a last resort, the ultimate defiance of criminalisation. And the British believed, as they did in our time, that at the time of Thomas Ashe, that they could break Republicans in Mountjoy Jail in Dublin, in Brixton in London, and later in our time in the Armagh Women's Prison and in the H blocks of Longcash. And that strategy failed in every generation due to the generosity and the bravery of the 22 people who died and the hundreds of thousands who supported their determination not to be branded as criminals. From Thomas Ashe in 1917 to Michael Gahan in 1974, to Frank Stagg, to Bobby Sands, to Joe McDonnell and their comrades in the blocks in 1981, all of these generations have had a powerful impact on Ireland and throughout the world. Gandhi and Nehru were inspired by the writings of Terence McSweeney. And Ho Chi Minh said of Cork's martyred mayor, "A nation which has such citizens will never surrender." As I said, 100 years ago tomorrow, Thomas Ashe died on hunger strike. He was a proud Kerry man. He had a deep grasp of Ireland, our people and its culture. He was passionate about the Irish language, He was a member of Crumlin the Gale, and I once visited his home down at Luscole in the Dingle Peninsula. He was a talented piper. He loved all things Irish. He played Gaelic football and hurling. He was also a teacher. He trained at De La Salle in Waterford. He took up a position of principal at Cordoff National School in Lusk in County Dublin. He also joined the Irish Republican Volunteers and the Volunteers. He spent time in the USA fundraising with J.J. McGurty, with men such as John DeBoy and Roger Casement. And during the 1916 Rising, Ashe was commanding officer of the Dublin 5th Battalion of the Volunteers, and he led the only action outside of Dublin when his unit attacked and captured the RIC barracks in Ashbourne, County Meath. And following the surrender order by Pearse, Ashe was arrested, court-martialed and sentenced to death. But that was commuted to life imprisonment, and he was released under the general amnesty in 1917. And on his release, he replaced Pearse, who of course had been executed. He replaced Pearse as president of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and he travelled around Ireland making campaign speeches on behalf of Sinn Féin. It was for one of those speeches that he was arrested on July 17th, and he demanded to be recognised as a prisoner of war. And like those comrades in our phase of struggle, he refused to wear the uniform of a criminal and to engage in penal labour. And Ashe and 6 of his comrades embarked on hunger strike when the authorities refused to meet the demands. He was put in a straitjacket and he was force-fed. And this involved his mouth being clamped open, a tube being forced down his throat, and liquid food being poured down the tube. And all requests to him to end the hunger strike were refused. He was adamant. He said, "They have branded me a criminal. Even though I die in a good cause." Gerry Kelly was at the event in Kerry, and he told the story of being force-fed in an English prison in the 1970s. He was force-fed for over 200 days. Him and Féin and Marion Price and Douglas Price. So that's from now until June next year. Think of that, being force-fed every single day of those 200 days. He talked graphically about this frightening, about this inhumane and cruel treatment. And he said that one of the big concerns was that the tube went down the wrong way, it would go into your lung. And that's what happened to Thomas Ashe on the 3rd day of this procedure. He was released immediately from the prison. He was taken to the Mater Hospital, and 2 days later, on the 25th of September, he died of heart and lung failure. And the British authorities then give the prisoners their demands. Same old story, once again. In Scale, Kierna, Arish. His death had a striking effect on the attitude of the Irish people. The brutal manner of how he died, superimposed upon the summary executions of the 1916 leaders and the other atrocities committed by the Crown forces, galvanised Republican Ireland. And I believe that for those of us today who want to know what it means to be a Republican, if we want an example, we need look no further than those who died on hunger strikes. We don't have to do what they did, but we have to display as best we can within our own flaws and frailties, the generosity and bravery and the self-sacrifice that they displayed. And some of us, we may think we're God's gift to the Republican struggle, or that we can ignore our responsibilities, that we can do our own thing. And that's not the way to proceed. Only an organised people will win our freedom. For those of us who want to serve our cause faithfully, without falling foul of ego or distractions, should look to these noble and decent people who have gone before us. and we shouldn't eulogise them. They were very ordinary. And it's a delight to see Armagh women here and former prisoners from prisons throughout this island and England. But those of you who are lucky never to have been in prison, you shouldn't be overawed. If you had been in prison, who knows but you would have shown the same resilience, because it's bigger than any of us. It's got to do with the human spirit, and that's what rises to the surface in these occasions. So they were ordinary people, but they responded in extraordinary times in extraordinary ways. And they had families, they had friends, they had lovers, they had sweethearts, they had neighbours, they had dreams, they had personal aspirations, and they all shared a burning, unquenchable desire to be free. They wanted an independent Ireland, and they wanted an Ireland based on the ideals of equality and justice. And they wanted to live in a real republic. So we honour their legacy by these commemorations, but also by continuing the work to build that real republic. And as we gather here today, negotiations are ongoing between the Sinn Féin leadership, led by Michelle O'Neill, and the local parties and the British and the Irish governments. And Sinn Féin is fully committed to the power-sharing institutions, and we're working to restore them. However, the lesson of recent years is very clear. As Martin McGuinness reminded us, the political institutions can only work if they're based on equality, respect and integrity. Our opponents, including elements in the DUP, the Fianna Fáil leadership and others, claim that Sinn Féin is no longer interested in the Assembly. That's a lie, and they know that. And the DUP leadership in particular know that. They also know the conditions that are required for sustainable institutions to deliver for all our people on education, on health, on housing, on anti-poverty measures, as well as the necessary work of reconciliation. So in order that there's no doubt, let me make it clear to everyone, including the Republican grassroots, our leadership is up for doing a deal with the DUP and the other parties, and are moving back into the executive on that basis. Let the DUP and the two governments also be in no doubt. No policy can be sustained without the informed consent of citizens. Let's also be mindful of the consequences of Brexit. It also, in a positive way, has re-energised and reshaped the debate about a united Ireland, or certainly about an all-island approach without the border. And there are many people talking positively about a united Ireland at any time in recent years. Our Newey is doing a lig atá a Gerry Era intatha chun an dearcha sin a coranúil go solar go dearfar agus go has inta aine na hasta. And of course, it's essential that those of us who want a united Ireland articulate that view and agree strategies to achieve it, to present convincing and cogent arguments. And we also have to engage with unionism. Anoru Dulce Sinn Féin play capish or into na Huron, Tá mion Hoppery Agnamiak Fulchaha Egdiniala or Antarva of Winnan Lahentis. Sinn Féin have produced discussion documents on Irish unity, others have produced detailed economic papers on the benefit of unity. And some months ago in the Dáil, I wrote to all the leaders and none arguing for the establishment of an all-Oireachtas Committee on Irish Unity. So as for our Bunchen, a Mulmeg or Cor Coista, Oireachtas, a Cor Arbon, or Aintu na Huron, Barry Multi Cuntusig, and Ura Intaha, or an Balak of Winnie Amach, August, ni more dun stad, Uranak Costa Planal, the A into and Yak Arnold, the Gilger Augustin Shehe. Sinn Féin will also bring forward a white paper on Irish unity on the time ahead, and we want to see a referendum on that issue, and we want to win that referendum. So, Irish unity, even in the rain, is achievable, it's doable, it can be achieved, but it's not inevitable. It has to be worked for, planned for, built for. There are no shortcuts. And there's a huge challenge for those of us who want unity, who want red of the union, who want red of partition, to go beyond the rhetoric and to actually achieve that. And that's the best monument we could build to Thomas Ashe, to Terence McSweeney, Sean McCahey, Frank Stagg, Bobby Sands, and all the others. And I want to finish, and I'm very conscious, I often say this to people, the reason why Bobby sometimes gets more prominence than the other men who died in the H blocks is because Bobby wrote. He wrote his thoughts, he wrote poetry, he wrote an account of what was going on. And just think about it for a second. There was no intellectual stimulation in that cell. The cell's about the size of any of the bathrooms here in Ballymurphy. He had no clothes, they had no radios, they had nothing but themselves. And Bobby and others did the same, wrote his thoughts and his dreams and his aspirations and his plans on cigarette paper with the refill of the barrel pen, and he secreted those on his body. So this is what this man sitting on his own wrote to the rest of us. There's an inner thing in everyone. Do you know this thing, my friends? It has withstood the blows of 1,000,000 years, and it will do so to the end. It was born when time did not exist, and it grew up out of life. It screamed aloud by Kerry Lakes as it was knelt upon the ground, and it died in great defiance as they coldly shot it down. It is found in every light of hope. It knows no bounds nor space. It is risen in red and black and white. It is there in every race. It lies in the hearts of heroes dead. It screams in Terence eyes. It has reached the peak of mountains high. It comes shearing across the skies. It lights the dark of this prison cell. It thunders forth its might. It is the undauntable thought, my friend, that thought that says, I'm right. Thank you, Thomas Ashe, for being right. Thank you, Bobby Sands. Thank you for the families of all of our hunger strikers, and thank you to all our hunger strikers. When you're in Talent,